great to be here. And thank you, Polly. She's our intrepid leader of the foundation and in charge of our phenomenal staff that allows us to do such great work for all of you. But we're happy to be here, and we're happy to get that little intel on who's there, because normally we'd be greeting you in person and we'd be standing at the front of a crowded room, and we'd be asking, you to raise your hands and tell
I'd
us.
be singing.
You'd be singing. Let's hear it. You're gonna do
Ooh,
something.
I need your love, babe. I hope you know it's true.
He does that because this morning his voice has been a little rough, as many of you can relate to, and has had kind of a hard time modulating pitch. So we've been singing for the last half hour. You've got it going on.
Sort of.
Sort of. Anyway, we're happy to be here. We're happy to kind of ground you in the experience of being here today and prepare you.
And welcome all our first-time visitors. These summits are really, and have shown me, certainly, who've been to innumerable ones, how much you can learn about this disease. And it's a complicated disease.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? We were talking about this because there's this whole notion, and you'll hear this, if you haven't heard it before, you'll hear it many times amongst people talking about Parkinson's, is that there's a constellation of symptoms, which to me, in my imagination, sort of leads me to think about, looking at the night sky and identifying Orion, right?
Yeah.
Like as if, oh, there it is.
Or the Big Dipper.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that when you look at someone with Parkinson's, when you're living with someone with Parkinson's, when you are someone with Parkinson's, what you realize is that it's not as tangible as looking at the night sky, which is in many ways not that tangible, right? So the complication of Parkinson's is that it's kind of like looking for the constellations, I think, through a cloudy sky. We can't quite see it all. We don't quite grasp what's there, and what you see on the outside isn't exactly what's going on the inside,
Right.
which is, Davis's problem with his voice. And sometimes people have that inability to give you the time and space to answer questions, right?
Right.
Speaking of which, I need a glass of water.
And so what our question is how many of you have been watching the Olympics? We're Olympic junkies.
We're Olympic junkies.
And
so, I should note that we're taping this now, so some of you will be watching it later, but we're sitting here talking to you on the end of the second week of the Beijing Winter Olympics.
Right. And so as part of that, there's all this speed and flights and amazing daring do that the athletes are doing. But that doesn't really connect necessarily with us and our current abilities. And so Connie and I were discussing it, and we had the idea that actually curling is a sport that maybe those of us with Parkinson's could metaphorically relate to.
Hey, wait a second. We got a lot of Canadians listening today, so they can really relate to this, because this sport definitely came out of, it actually came out of probably the far reaches of the North, which includes Canada, but also England and Norway and Scandinavia. But I wanted to back up a second, because 50 years ago, I competed in the Winter Olympics for speed skating.
She was 2 years old.
Thank you, honey. And I was thinking, I actually asked the question this morning, what's changed about the Olympics, which over 50 years, a lot has changed, and there's a lot of new events. And of course, and 50 years ago, we didn't have snowboarding, we didn't have aerials, we didn't have a lot of the events that you see today, and we didn't have curling.
Yes.
And so we started thinking about curling. And if you've seen curling, and if you haven't, I would challenge you to go just look at YouTube or just check it out later, because it's a very interesting sport. It's a team sport. It's a team sport. So what they do is one person is tasked with throwing a 40-pound, not throwing, but gliding a 40-pound stone, a granite stone, down a sheet of ice toward the goal, the home, on the other side. Anyway, as you watch, it seems very like, what are they doing? Because you'll see them release the stone, and then there's two people on either side with a broom
that are heating the ice to ease the passage of the stone.
And actually curl the stone, and that's why it's called curling, but it's to change the trajectory. And so we started thinking about how fascinating it was that curling requires tactics and skill and communication. What else requires tactics, skill, and communication?
Yeah, living with Parkinson's.
Living with Parkinson's.
Especially living well.
And so we started thinking about that, that it's metaphorically, it really works too, because if you think about it, there's like this manifestation of, the person with the stone. That's the person with Parkinson's, and the people around them that are helping them to curl the stone are your caregivers, are your medical team, are your people, your other people with Parkinson's who are helping you. And that's one of the things we lose when we're on Zoom together, is we don't get to look across the table and meet other people with Parkinson's or other caregivers and really get to share our stories one-on-one and grow our team. So that's why you're here. You're here because you're trying to improve your tactics and your game.
And
right?
If you picture the stone as Parkinson's, then that's what works well for the complete metaphor. Only I would say that you're not trying to knock other people with Parkinson's out of their ring,
off their trajectory, or out of the winning target. Yeah. Sometimes it work completely, but because we're in the throes of the Winter Olympics and really enjoying the accomplishments of others, we thought we'd try a little light on that, shine a little light on that, and get you thinking about something else besides Parkinson's, because we're going to do a lot on the topic of Parkinson's today, and we're going to talk about symptoms and really potential symptoms that you may or may not be experiencing now, you may never experience. And that's also part of what's so uncanny and so confounding about Parkinson's, is that not everyone will have the same journey toward the end game, and that makes it complicated. And we're not. Some of the things you're going to hear today may frighten you. You say, I don't have that, or I don't know what you're talking about. Put your questions in the chat and file some of this in the back as just gaining information and expertise for what may come down the road or what may never come down the road. But it's just important to know what could happen, or if it's happening, how to manage it, because so much of Parkinson's is manageable. And is your path, like that curling stone going down the ice, is correctable, right? Yes. And it takes management. And here at the Davis Phinney Foundation, I mean, the biggest thing this guy does is exercise, keep moving. And that's kind of number one. It's not for everybody. It's for most of you, though. And I think for most of us, caregivers are helped by moving and keeping going. And that's really why we call this the Victory Summit, because we're all focused on the small victories, as this guy will say. The arms up,
arms up.
Yeah, we'll do that at the
end. I know, I couldn't help it. I just heard the V word.
Yeah, I know.
My arms shoot up.
I know. Yeah, so we're here to bring you that winning mentality and to help you demystify a very complicated journey, and to introduce you to some great experts.
Subject.
Yeah.
Because, having the autonomic symptoms, if you have pain or you have digestive issues, which is me, as well as other aspects of like NOH, the dizziness and whatnot, then we have some very good speakers today who will talk specifically about those issues.
Yeah.
And then in our short interim between topics, we have people who are addressing specifically how to deal with those issues from an exercise standpoint, movement breaks.
Yeah. And I think just to say to all of you, we're just so grateful that you showed up today. You're showing up for yourself and for everyone around you by taking this journey and kind of expanding your own bandwidth and ability to deal with it. So thanks so much for showing up. Know that you're not alone. And that's really why we at the Davis Phinney Foundation are here.